Something strange is happening with your money. You work, you earn, you save, at least you try to. And yet, somehow, it always feels like you're moving forward, but not getting ahead. Prices rise faster than your income. Debt becomes normal. Owning assets feels just out of reach. And quietly, almost invisibly, wealth keeps concentrating somewhere else. So here's the uncomfortable question. What if this isn't random? What if the system isn't just flawed, but designed this way? And more importantly, who benefits from that design? We'll answer that, but not yet. First, let's rewind. Imagine the economy as a game. Not a fair one, not even a balanced one. A game where the rules were written long before you started playing. At the surface, the rules seem simple. Work hard, save money, invest wisely, be patient. Sounds reasonable, but underneath, there's a second layer. One most people never see, because the economy doesn't just reward effort. It rewards position. Let's break that down. When you earn money, you're usually trading time for it. A salary, a wage, a fixed input for a fixed output. But when money earns money, the rules change. Assets, stocks, real estate, businesses don't operate on time. They operate on leverage, scale, and compounding. And here's the key detail most people overlook. The system is built to make assets grow faster than wages. Always has been. Why? We'll get there. But first, consider this. If your income grows at 3% per year, but the assets you're trying to buy grow at 8%, what happens? You fall behind. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the math is stacked. And this isn't theory. It's baked into how modern economies function. Let's talk about money creation. Most people think money is created by governments printing it. That's only part of the story. In reality, the majority of money is created by banks, through lending. When a bank gives out a loan, it doesn't take existing money and pass it along. It creates new money, out of thin air. That means the economy is constantly expanding through debt. Now here's where it gets interesting. Who gets access to the largest, cheapest loans? Not average workers, not small savers, but those who already have assets. Because assets can be used as collateral. So the people who own assets get more access to money, which they use to buy more assets, which then rise in value, giving them access to even more money. It's a loop, a powerful one. Meanwhile, everyone else is mostly locked into earning and spending within the system, without access to that same leverage. So ask yourself, if money is created through debt, and debt flows more easily to asset owners, where does newly created money go first? That's right, into assets, which is why asset prices often rise faster than everything else. Stocks surge, real estate climbs. Financial markets inflate, and by the time that money trickles down to wages, prices have already moved. The first receivers of new money benefit the most. Everyone else pays higher prices. Quietly, gradually, consistently. Now let's layer in inflation. You've been told inflation is normal. Healthy, even. 2% per year, that's the target. But think about what that actually means. Your money loses value every year, not dramatically. Just enough to be tolerable. But over time, it compounds. And here's the twist. Inflation doesn't affect everything equally. Asset prices often inflate faster than consumer goods. So while your daily expenses rise, the things that build wealth rise even faster. Homes become unaffordable. Stocks feel expensive. Entry points disappear. So you're left with a choice. Take on more risk or fall behind. Now, remember that question from earlier? Why is the system built this way? Because growth requires it. Modern economies are built on expansion. Debt must grow. Consumption must increase. Markets must rise. And for that to happen, money needs to keep moving. Not sitting, not resting, moving. So the system quietly discourages saving in cash. It rewards spending and investing. But here's the contradiction. To invest effectively, you need surplus capital. And to build surplus capital, you need to outpace a system that is constantly eroding your purchasing power. It's a treadmill, and the speed gradually increases. Now let's talk about something even more subtle. Risk transfer. When things go well, gains are often privatized. When things go wrong, losses are often socialized. Think about financial crises. Large institutions take on massive risks. When those risks pay off, profits stay with them. When they collapse, the system intervenes. Why? Because the system itself must survive. But that creates an asymmetry. Certain players operate with a safety net. Others don't, and over time, that changes behavior. It encourages bigger risks at the top and more caution at the bottom, which widens the gap even further. Now, here's where it gets a bit uncomfortable. Because none of this requires a conspiracy. No secret meetings, no hidden masterminds. Just incentives, structures, and feedback loops. The system doesn't need to target you personally. It just needs to function the way it was designed. And if you're not positioned correctly within it, the outcome feels personal anyway. Now, let's contrast the promise versus the reality. The promise is simple: work hard and you'll build a stable future. The reality? Hard work is necessary, but not sufficient. Because effort alone doesn't determine outcomes. Access does, timing does, ownership does, and most importantly, understanding the system does. Here's an example. Two people earn the same income. One spends most of it on consumption. The other channels even a small portion into assets early. Over time, the difference compounds. Not linearly, exponentially, because once assets begin generating returns, the system starts working for you instead of against you. But here's the catch. The window to enter that loop is getting narrower. Asset prices rise faster. Barriers to entry increase. Competition intensifies, which raises another question. What happens when fewer people can access asset ownership at all? We're already seeing early signs. Higher debt burdens, delayed home ownership, increased reliance on financial markets for retirement, and a growing sense that the game is harder to win. Not impossible, but harder. Now zoom out. If wealth continues concentrating, if asset ownership becomes more exclusive, if wages struggle to keep up, what does that do to the stability of the system itself? Because here's the irony: an economy designed to move money efficiently can eventually concentrate it too much. And when that happens, the very growth it depends on starts to slow. Consumption weakens, debt becomes heavier, opportunities shrink, and pressure builds. So we're left with a paradox. The system needs inequality to function, but too much inequality threatens the system. Where's the balance? No one seems to fully agree. And maybe that's the point, because the system isn't static. It evolves, it adjusts, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but rarely in ways that are obvious in real time. So the next time you feel like your money isn't stretching as far as it should, or that getting ahead requires more effort than it used to, consider this: you're not just earning and spending. You're navigating a system with hidden currents. Some pulling you forward, others pulling you back. And the difference between the two isn't luck. It's position, understanding, and timing. So here's the question that remains. If the economy was designed to move money, not just create it, not just distribute it, but move it, then the real question isn't whether that's happening. It's this: in which direction is it moving, relative to you?